Your mindset explained.
And here's the part that just wrecks me every time I think about it. Both people are lying awake. Both of them are thinking about the other person, but neither one sends the message, and both of them wake up the next morning having convinced themselves the other person doesn't care.
That's the tragedy of it.
It's an enormous tragedy, and it's happening in millions of households every single night. Not because people are cruel, not because they're indifferent, but because they're scared, and nobody told them what they're actually scared of.
Okay, we're gonna get into all of that, so stay with us. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast where we dig underneath the surface of everyday human behavior and pull out the strange, fascinating, slightly uncomfortable truth hiding underneath. I'm your host, Emily, and I am genuinely excited about today's conversation. Okay, before I introduce my guest, I want to do something a little different. I want you, yes, you, whoever's listening to this right now, whether you're driving, doing dishes, lying in bed, I want you to close your eyes for a second. Well, don't close your eyes if you're driving. Please don't do that. But mentally close your eyes. Picture this. It's nighttime. You're in your room, maybe 9, 10 o'clock. The lights are low. There's that ambient kind of quiet where you can hear the faint hum of something electrical in the background. And your phone is just sitting there, screen down on the nightstand, just sitting there like it's deliberately avoiding your gaze. And you're thinking about someone. Maybe it's a friend you haven't properly spoken to in 3 months. Maybe it's a family member. Maybe it's someone you used to be incredibly close to, and lately there's just been this slow, creeping distance. You can picture their face. You remember the last conversation you had. Part of you really wants to text them, but you don't. You don't, and you tell yourself, if they wanted to talk, they would have reached out by now. And you put the phone away, and you fall asleep. Now, have you ever stopped to wonder what's happening on their end? Because the wild, slightly heartbreaking possibility is that they are doing the exact same thing, at the exact same time, in their own room, staring at your name. So today's question is, why? Why do some people seem almost constitutionally unable to reach out first? And is it really what it looks like on the surface, which is, frankly, that they don't care? Or is something much more complicated going on underneath? My guest today has spent years studying exactly this. He's a behavioral researcher and therapist who works with clients on attachment, social psychology, and, as he describes it, the invisible stories people tell themselves about whether or not they deserve connection. Frank, welcome to the show.
Emily, thank you for having me. And I have to say, that opening, that scene you just painted, I felt that in my chest a little bit.
Good. That means I did my job. Because this topic, I feel like it's one of those things everyone has experienced, but nobody quite has the language for. Like, we all know someone who never texts first. Maybe we are that person, but we don't really know why.
Right. And what I find is that the moment people get the language, the moment someone names what's happening, there's this almost immediate sense of relief. Like, oh, there's a reason for this. I'm not just broken.
Oh, I want to get into that so much. Okay, but first, just set the stage for me. How common is this actually? Like, are we talking about a niche personality quirk, or is this genuinely widespread?
It's remarkably widespread, and I think it's becoming more common, not less. If you look at any population-level data on loneliness and social connection, the numbers are genuinely alarming. We have more ways to communicate than at any point in human history, and yet people are reporting feeling more disconnected, more isolated, more like they don't have meaningful relationships than at any measured point in modern history.
And you think this behavior, not initiating, is part of that picture?
It's a huge part of that picture. Because here's the thing, technology didn't create the psychology. The psychology was already there. Technology just made it possible to avoid connection while appearing to be connected. You can have 300 friends on a platform and not have genuinely reached out to a single one of them in months.
Oof, yeah. Okay, let's get into it. Take me back. Where does this actually start?
To understand the psychology of people who never reach out first, we first have to look at what human connection actually costs us, emotionally, neurologically, because there is a real cost. And once you understand that cost, the behavior starts to make a lot more sense.
What do you mean by cost?
Well, think about it from an evolutionary standpoint. We talk a lot about the fact that humans are social animals, but what we don't talk about enough is why we're social animals. And the reason is survival. For the vast majority of human history, hundreds of thousands of years, you survived in a group or you didn't survive at all. Full stop.
Right, the whole tribe thing.
Exactly. And this means that being cast out of your social group, being rejected by the people around you, was not just emotionally painful, it was a death sentence. No food, no shelter, no protection. You would die, alone, in the wilderness.
And our brains haven't caught up to the fact that we're not in that situation anymore.
They really haven't. And this is not poetic language. This is actual neuroscience. There are brain imaging studies that show that the neural pathways activated by social rejection are the same pathways activated by physical pain. The same regions, the same chemicals. Your brain, at a very deep level, cannot fully distinguish between being ignored by someone you love and being physically hurt.
Okay, wow. That's both fascinating and also kind of devastating.
It's both of those things simultaneously. And what this means is that when someone avoids reaching out first, they're not being irrational. They're responding to a genuine threat signal. Their nervous system is saying, "Don't do it. You could get hurt."
But the rational part of us knows that a text message isn't going to kill us.
The rational part knows that. But the rational part isn't always driving the bus, especially when we're talking about patterns that were established very, very early in life.
Okay, this is where I want to go. Because when you and I were talking before the show, you mentioned attachment theory. And I feel like that's a term people have heard. It's a bit of a buzzword now, but I don't think most people really understand what it means in practice. Can you break that down?
Absolutely. So, attachment theory was developed by a British psychiatrist named John Bowlby, starting in the 1960s. And the core idea is this. Human beings are biologically wired to form strong emotional bonds with their early caregivers. That's not a choice, that's hardwired. Babies need that bond to survive.
That's right.
And the quality of that early bond, how consistent it was, how safe it felt, how responsive the caregiver was, becomes a kind of template, a working model of what relationships are like, how they work, whether they're safe, whether people can be trusted, whether reaching out for connection gets you warmth or gets you nothing.
And that template follows you into adulthood.
It follows you everywhere. Into your friendships, your romantic relationships, your work relationships, your relationship with yourself. It's extraordinarily durable. It's not permanent. It can be updated, but it takes real work to update it.
So, walk me through the different attachment styles, because there's more than one, right?
Right. So a researcher named Mary Ainsworth built on Bowlby's work and conducted this famous experiment in the 1970s called the strange situation. Very simple setup. Babies and their mothers in a room with toys. Mom briefly leaves, a stranger comes in, then mom comes back. And Ainsworth just watched what happened.
And what did she see?
3 distinct patterns. The first group, when mom left, they were upset. When she came back, they ran to her, got comforted quickly, and went back to exploring. Ainsworth called these kids securely attached. Their caregiver was responsive enough that these children had internalized, when I need someone, they'll be there.
Those are the people who, as adults, probably have no problem texting first?
Generally, yes. They reach out because reaching out has historically worked. Then there's a second group, anxiously attached. These kids were inconsolable when mom left, and even when she came back, they couldn't settle. They'd reach for her, push her away, cling, then push away again. Very conflicted. As adults, these tend to be the over-texters. They're always reaching out, often anxiously, needing constant reassurance.
And then the third group?
The third group is the one that directly answers your question today. Avoidant attachment. These babies barely reacted when mom left, barely reacted when she came back, played alone, seemed completely self-contained, independent, almost unbothered.
Which, on the surface, looks fine and healthy?
Looks great, right? This kid's got it together, doesn't need anyone, very independent. Except, and this is the part that still gets me, When researchers measured the cortisol levels of these babies, their stress hormones,
Oh no.
through the roof. These babies were flooded with distress internally. But they had learned, before they could speak, before they had conscious thought, that expressing that distress didn't work. That reaching for connection led to nothing, or to irritation, or to rejection. So they shut it down. They learned to self-regulate, to appear fine.
And those are the adults in our lives who never reach out first.
Many of them? Yes. And I want to be clear, this doesn't mean their caregivers were villains. Often, parents who raise avoidantly attached children were themselves avoidantly attached. It's generational. It passes down. Someone can be doing their genuine best and still, inadvertently, be teaching their child that emotional needs are a burden.
That's actually kind of heartbreaking. Because the child isn't wrong for having the need. The parent probably wasn't deliberately withholding, and yet the lesson still gets learned.
The lesson still gets learned. The body keeps score. And that lesson shows up decades later when someone is lying in bed, phone in hand, wanting to text someone they love, and something just stops them, and they don't even know what.
Okay, so we've established where this comes from. Now let's talk about what it actually looks like. Because I think the frustrating thing, if you're on the receiving end of someone like this, is it really does look like they don't care.
That's right. And this is such an important thing to address. Because the appearance of avoidance and the reality of avoidance are often completely opposite things.
Say more.
When you reach out to someone, you're doing something very specific. You're saying, without saying it explicitly, I thought about you, I value you, you cross my mind. You're showing your cards, you're revealing emotional investment. And for someone running an avoidant attachment program, showing your cards is terrifying.
Because then you could be rejected.
Because then you could be confirmed. And I use that word very deliberately. It's not just rejection they're afraid of, it's confirmation. Confirmation of a belief they've been quietly carrying, often for most of their lives.
What's the belief?
Usually something like, I'm not worth choosing, I'm nice to have around, but I'm not someone people actually seek out. If people knew the real me, how much I needed things, how much I cared, they'd find it too much or not enough, and eventually they'd leave.
Oh, wow. And so if they reach out and don't get a warm response?
The story is confirmed. The thing they most fear about themselves appears to be true, and that is so unbearable that it feels safer to just never find out.
That's wild because it means they're managing their own fear at the expense of the actual relationship.
At the expense of everything. The relationship, the connection, their own well-being. All of it gets sacrificed on the altar of protection.
I want to introduce something here because you mentioned it to me before we started recording, and I loved the way you framed it. The seesaw analogy.
Oh yes, I use this with clients a lot because it really lands.
Break it down.
Okay, think of any relationship, friendship, romance, doesn't matter, as a seesaw. When both people are equally engaged, equally investing, equally reaching out, the seesaw is balanced. Both people are at the same level. It's stable, it's comfortable, it's good.
Right.
But the moment you reach out and the other person responds with less enthusiasm, less warmth, less investment than you showed, the seesaw tips. You go down, they go up. And for someone with a deep fear of emotional asymmetry, being on the downside of that seesaw is humiliating. It means you care more, and caring more means you're vulnerable, and vulnerable means you could get hurt.
So their solution is to just never get on the seesaw.
Never get on the seesaw. And from the outside, that looks like arrogance. It looks like they think they're too good to reach out. But internally, it's pure self-protection. If I never ask, I can never be told no. If I never reach out, I can never find out that they're less invested than I am.
But the seesaw just sits there, empty.
The seesaw sits there. And here's where it turns into what I call a catastrophic, self-fulfilling prophecy.
Okay, tell me about that. Because I think this is the part that really is the most tragic part of this whole psychology.
So, person A has avoidant tendencies. They genuinely care about person B, but they don't reach out. Because the fear of asymmetry, the fear of rejection, the negative internal story all conspires to stop them. They wait.
And person B?
Person B notices the silence. And person B, who maybe has their own insecurities, their own wounds, starts to interpret that silence. They haven't reached out. Maybe I'm not a priority. Maybe they've moved on. Maybe I was just convenient to them. So person B also stops reaching out.
Oh no.
Now both people are silent. Both people are drifting apart. Both people are in pain. And person A looks at that distance and says, "See? I knew it. I knew they didn't really care. Good thing I didn't embarrass myself by reaching out."
The story proved itself true, except it wasn't true to begin with.
Often, it was never true. Person B was thinking about them the entire time, missing them, also wanting to reach out. And now they've both lost something real because neither one could move first.
There's actually a name for that phenomenon, right? Where everyone privately feels one thing, but publicly acts like they don't.
Yeah, it's called pluralistic ignorance. Classic social psychology concept. The textbook example is a lecture hall full of confused students. Everyone's lost, but nobody raises their hand because everyone assumes everyone else understood. And so the whole room stays confused.
And in relationships, it's everyone's lonely, but everyone acts like they're fine.
Everyone's lonely, everyone's waiting, everyone's assuming they're the only one who cares that much. And the relationship quietly dies while both people mourn it privately and never tell each other.
That's a lot. Okay, I want to ask you something that I think is a little more uncomfortable. Because we've been very compassionate about this so far, and I think that's right and important, but I also want to be honest. Some of this is also ego, isn't it?
Yes, some of it is absolutely ego. And I appreciate you going there, because I think if we don't name it, we're not being fully honest.
Talk about that part.
Okay, let's talk about it like this. There's a version of not reaching out first that has less to do with deep childhood wounding and more to do with not wanting to be the one who cares more, not wanting to be the chaser. There's a certain pride involved in being the person who is sought out rather than the one who does the seeking.
Right, like there's a social status thing attached to it.
Absolutely. In certain social environments, being the one who always initiates reads as desperate, needy, trying too hard. And not initiating reads as valuable. Like you have so many options, so much going on, so much demand on your time that you can afford to wait.
Which is a kind of performance.
It's a performance. And like all performances, it's exhausting to maintain and deeply, deeply lonely.
So, how do you tell the difference? If you're someone who's examining this in yourself, how do you know if your non-initiating is coming from deep attachment wounding or from ego protection?
Great question. And honestly, for a lot of people, it's both, interwoven in ways that are hard to separate. But a rough test I give people is, ask yourself what you feel in the moment of deciding not to reach out. Is what you feel primarily fear? Fear of rejection? Fear of finding out they don't care? Or is what you feel primarily satisfaction? A quiet sense of, good, let them come to me.
Ooh.
Fear points toward attachment wounding. Satisfaction points toward ego. And they require somewhat different approaches to address.
That's such a useful distinction. Okay, I want to take a quick break, and when we come back, I want to get into the neuroscience, because I know you have some genuinely wild things to say about what's happening in the brain during all of this. Stick with us. Okay, we're back. Frank, before the break, you were starting to allude to the brain science of this, and I know you wanted to talk about something called the default mode network. I'll be honest, I had to look that up before our conversation.
Most people have. It's not a household term, but it really should be, because what it tells us is extraordinary.
Tell me what it is.
The default mode network, DMN for short, is a set of brain regions that activate when you are not focused on an external task. When you're not working, not looking at a screen, not solving a problem. When you're just being, daydreaming, spacing out, lying in bed.
Which sounds like it would be kind of a blank state.
That's what people assume, but it's not blank at all. What researchers found when they started imaging brains in this resting state is that the brain goes immediately to thinking about people. Not concepts, not abstract ideas, people. Specific people. Social scenarios, conversations you've had, conversations you imagine having, what someone might be thinking or feeling about you.
So the default mode of the human brain is other humans?
The default mode of the human brain is relationships. When there's nothing else to do, the brain automatically starts processing your social world. It's called social cognition. And neuroscientists think this is because maintaining social bonds was so critical to survival that the brain literally never fully powers down that function.
So, the idea that someone never thinks about you
Is almost certainly neurologically impossible. Their brain is thinking about someone every time it defaults, and you might well be in that pool. But here's where it gets complicated for people with avoidant attachment or high rejection sensitivity. For them, the default mode network activity doesn't produce warm, connective social thoughts. It produces threat assessments. The mental movie they're running isn't, "Oh, I miss them, I should reach out." It's, "I wonder if they're annoyed with me. I wonder if I said something wrong last time. I wonder if they even want to hear from me."
So the brain is still thinking about relationships, but through a lens of danger rather than warmth.
Exactly. The hardware is working fine, the software is running a virus. Connection feels like threat. And so the thing that should prompt you to reach out, genuinely thinking about someone, instead prompts you to not reach out, because the thought of them is tangled up with the anticipation of pain.
That's actually kind of beautiful and terrible at the same time. Like, they're thinking about you constantly. And that's exactly why they can't text you.
You've just described the experience of probably half my client base.
I'll leave that to you. Okay, let's talk about rejection sensitivity, because I've heard this term more recently and I want to understand it properly.
The rejection sensitivity is one of my favorite concepts in social psychology because it explains so much behavior that otherwise seems completely irrational. The term was first really studied systematically by a psychologist named Geraldine Downey in the late 1990s. And what she found is that some people, due to early experiences, develop a hair trigger for rejection. They anxiously expect it, they readily perceive it, and they react intensely to it.
Even when it's not actually happening.
Even when it's not happening at all. Someone takes 40 minutes to reply to a text. Rejection. Someone uses a period at the end of a sentence instead of an exclamation mark. Rejection. Something's wrong. Someone cancels plans for a genuine reason. They're pulling away. They're done with me. I knew it.
Oh, I know people like this.
Most of us do. And here's the really interesting part. People with high rejection sensitivity tend to split into two opposite behavioral patterns. Some become hyper-pursuing. They text constantly, need constant reassurance, become what we'd call anxiously attached in their adult relationships. Always reaching out, always needing to know everything's okay.
And the other group?
The other group does the complete opposite. They become what's sometimes called preemptively withdrawn. If I never ask, I can never be told no. If I never reach out, I never have to face the moment of discovering they don't care as much as I do.
Preemptive withdrawal. Like leaving the party before anyone can ask you to leave.
That's exactly it. And both responses, the hyper-pursuing and the withdrawal, are coming from exactly the same place. The same wound, the same terror. They're just opposite coping strategies.
And neither of them actually works.
Neither of them actually works. The hyper-pursuer pushes people away with the intensity of their need. The withdrawer creates distance and then experiences that distance as confirmation of their fear. Both lose. Both suffer.
Okay, I want to ask you something that I think is really important and maybe a little uncomfortable. Because we've talked about what this does to individual relationships. But you mentioned to me that there's actually a real-world, practical cost to this that goes beyond relationships, like career stuff, public health stuff. Can you talk about that?
Absolutely, and I'm glad you're bringing this in, because I think people sometimes treat psychological patterns as purely personal matters. That's just how I am, it only affects me. But that's almost never true.
How does it show up professionally?
Think about what professional success often requires. Raising your hand, emailing the contact, asking for the introduction, following up after the meeting, pitching the idea you believe in, building relationships with people who can open doors for you. And what is all of that? It's initiating. It's reaching out first. It's doing professionally exactly what these people cannot bring themselves to do personally.
The same software is running in both contexts.
The same software is running everywhere. The fear of rejection that stops someone from texting their friend is the exact same fear that stops them from asking for the raise, from pitching to the investor, from raising their hand in the meeting. The psychological architecture is identical. So people who have this pattern often have invisible ceilings on their careers, not from a lack of ability, from an excess of fear.
And at the macro level, the societal level,
we're living through what is now being officially classified as a loneliness epidemic. The US Surgeon General used those exact words, and the data is stark. People are reporting fewer close friendships, less meaningful connection, more isolation than at virtually any other measured point in modern history.
At a time when we have more connection tools than ever.
At a time when we have infinite connection tools. And the reason those tools aren't solving loneliness is because loneliness isn't a technology problem. It's a psychology problem. If the psychology around reaching out is broken, the best messaging app in the world is just a very expensive way to watch other people connect.
Wow. Okay. So what do we actually do about this? Because I feel like we've thoroughly established the problem. I want to give people something to take home, something actionable.
Yeah, let's go there.
Okay, so if someone is listening to this and they're recognizing themselves, they're the person who never reaches out first, they know it, maybe they've even felt bad about it. What do they actually do?
First thing I want to say, and I really mean this, if you're recognizing yourself in this conversation, please hear that you are not broken. You built a system that made complete sense given what you experienced. These patterns didn't come from nowhere. They came from real moments, real environments, real pain. You were doing the best you could with the information your nervous system had.
Which is such an important reframe, because I think people who recognize this in themselves often have a lot of shame about it.
The shame is one of the cruelest parts of it, because shame tends to make the behavior worse. When you feel ashamed of not reaching out, you often retreat even further. So step 1, genuinely, is compassion. Not excusing the pattern, but understanding where it came from before you try to change it.
Okay, and then what?
Step 2 is awareness. Just naming the pattern as it's happening. Not trying to stop it immediately, just noticing it. Oh, I'm doing that thing again. I want to text them and something is stopping me. What is that something? Is it fear? Is it ego protection? Is it my story telling me they don't want to hear from me?
Just getting curious about it rather than immediately acting on it or immediately fighting it.
Exactly. In cognitive behavioral therapy, we call this metacognition, thinking about your thinking. And it's remarkable how much power you get back just from that step alone. The pattern has less grip on you when you can see it clearly.
And then step 3?
Small experiments. And I want to emphasize small. Because a lot of self-help advice says, be vulnerable, open up, tell people how you feel. And for someone with avoidant attachment, that advice is, it's too much. It's like telling someone who's afraid of water to just jump into the deep end. That's not bravery, that's overwhelm.
So what does small look like?
A meme, a link to an article, a voice note. Hey, this reminded me of you. I saw this and thought you'd laugh. No pressure, no emotional weight, just a small signal that says, I thought about you, and this time, I let myself reach out.
And the point is that you're not going for a transformation. You're going for a data point.
You're going for a data point. Every small reach out is an experiment that tests the story. And what happens to most people, not all, but most, is that the response they get is fine. The other person is glad to hear from them. The world doesn't end. The rejection they anticipated doesn't materialize. And slowly, the nervous system starts to update. Oh, maybe reaching out is okay. Maybe I won't be destroyed.
It rewires through experience.
It rewires through experience. Which is also why the fourth thing I'd say, and this one isn't optional in my clinical opinion, it's genuinely important, is therapy. Specifically, attachment-focused therapy. Because these patterns were built in relationship, they were shaped by how other people treated you, and they are most powerfully healed in relationship. Specifically, the safe, boundaried, consistent relationship with a skilled therapist.
I love that framing. The wound happened in relationship. The healing happens in relationship.
Exactly. And I want to destigmatize that. Getting therapy for this is not weakness. It is the single smartest, most courageous investment you can make in the quality of your relationships, and therefore your life.
Okay, now let's flip it. For people listening who love someone like this, who are always the one who initiates, always the one making the plan, always showing up, and they're exhausted and maybe even starting to feel like the other person just doesn't care. What do you say to them?
I'd say, before you make a final conclusion, consider one alternative explanation. What if this person cares about you so much that it frightens them? What if their silence isn't about you at all, but about their own deeply ingrained fear of showing how much they care?
Because those two things look identical from the outside.
Identical. Someone who doesn't care and someone who cares too much and is terrified to show it produce exactly the same behavior on the surface. And knowing which one you're dealing with matters enormously for how you respond.
How do you figure out which one it is?
Have a direct conversation about it. Which sounds terrifying, I know, but something like, not accusatory, not dramatic, just honest. I've noticed I'm usually the one to reach out first, and I want to check in about that, because I want to make sure this connection works for both of us. That opens a door, and a person who cares but is avoidant will almost always respond to that door being opened. Maybe clumsily, maybe imperfectly, but they'll try.
And a person who genuinely doesn't care?
Will probably not respond meaningfully. And then you have more information. But at least you know. You're not just silently suffering and assuming.
And what about ongoing? Like, if you're in this dynamic long term, is there a way to be in a relationship with someone who has this pattern without it destroying you?
Yes, but it requires two things. First, you genuinely accepting that this person may always reach out less than you do, and being okay with that, not as a compromise of your self-respect, but as a recognition of a real difference in how you're wired. Some people just don't operate on the same initiation frequency. That doesn't mean they love you less, it means they express differently.
That's actually really freeing to hear put that way.
The second thing is, you cannot do this indefinitely without any reciprocity. That's not sustainable. Your needs are valid. You deserve a relationship where the other person also shows up for you. So part of being in relationship with an avoidant person is being clear, kindly, but clearly, about what you need. Not demanding they become a different person, but being honest about what the relationship requires to work.
Okay, I want to ask you one more thing before we wrap up, and it's a little personal. Do you, in your own life, recognize any of these patterns in yourself?
Yes, yeah. I'd be a bit of a hypocrite if I didn't, right? I've done a lot of work on myself, and I'm in a much better place than I was. But there are moments, even now, where I notice the impulse to wait, to not reach out first, to tell myself a story about why it's fine to just let it go quiet.
What do you do in those moments?
I try to notice it, name it, and then, not always, but more often than I used to, I pick up my phone and I send the message anyway. Even if my voice is slightly shaking, metaphorically, when I do it.
And
it's almost always okay. Usually better than okay. Usually the person on the other end says, "Oh my gosh, I was just thinking about you."
Of course they were.
Of course they were. The default mode network strikes again.
Okay, Frank, we're coming up on time, and I want to give you a moment to just speak directly to whoever's listening. Because there's something about this topic that I think lands differently when you just talk to people.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. If you're listening and you recognized yourself in any of this, the person who lies awake thinking about someone and doesn't reach out, I want you to know that the distance you've been living with isn't proof that you don't need people. It's proof that some part of you decided, at some point in your history, that needing people wasn't safe. And I want to gently, respectfully suggest that decision made sense then. In the environment where it was made, it was probably the smartest thing you could have done. It protected you. But you're not there anymore. You're here, right now. And the question worth asking is the armor still serving you? Or is it keeping out the very thing you actually need? Because here's the truth. The people in your life who you've been waiting on, some of them are waiting on you. Right now. Tonight. Same ceiling, same phone, same name on the screen. And one of you has to move first. It doesn't have to be a big gesture. It doesn't have to be a speech. It can be 4 words. It can be an emoji. It can be the smallest possible signal that says, "I'm still here. I still care. You still cross my mind." The risk is real. I won't lie to you. Sometimes you reach out and it's awkward, or they respond with less warmth than you hoped, and it stings. That's true. But the alternative, the long, slow, quiet ache of being disconnected from people you love, that costs far more. We have the data on that now. We know what loneliness does to the body. We know what isolation does to the mind. And we know it is a price that nobody should have to pay when the solution is this simple. Pick up your phone. Not for a performance, not to see if they'll match your energy, not to win something, just because they matter to you. And that's enough reason.
That's enough reason. I love that. Frank, thank you so much for this conversation. Genuinely, this is the kind of episode that I think is going to sit with people for a while.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for the quality of your questions. These are not easy things to talk about, and you made it feel very natural.
Perfect. And for everyone listening, if this episode hit close to home, the kindest thing you can do for someone else is share it. Tag them, send it directly. You never know who needed to hear this today. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And remember, on this podcast, nothing is ever quite what it looks like on the surface, including the people you love. See you on the next episode.